Welcome to another episode of Modern Black Man Podcast. This week, I am joined by the co-host, Doug. What's good?
What's going on, bro? It's good to see you. How you doing today?
Blessed, bro. Look, I'm blessed. I'm grateful. I'm excited. I'm motivated. My perspective is widened, and I think that I'm stretched too thin, and I accept it. That's where I'm at
um,
right now.
well, I'm living pretty convinced that I am 100% sure that what I mean. I am made. I am created, and I worship the right God that
Amen.
created all things.
This isn't that show, but that's always the vibe. I think that these morals and that perspective certainly can guide you in this world. And I want to be more mindful as well as thankful and grateful for that foundation. Uh, you said it well. I think that today, for this episode, I might do something a little different. I'm not gonna jump right into it. I almost got brave enough to just jump and dive
What's wrong
and
with that? You might as well just go ahead and say what you need to say.
I'm not gonna do that. Let's talk a little bit about what we're doing here today because the title of this episode is what it is. But I started it with the question of why do we feel we can do what we feel? I want to build up on that point. And then I have a video of a very specific event that's related to this. But I want to have the conversation. Why do we feel that we can do what we feel?
Well, I don't know if you want me to give you an answer to that.
I do.
But if it's not rhetorical, then I would say the chief reason why a person would do what they think they can, whether they feel that their feeling matters. Like
Your
they have to truly
feeling
be
matters.
they have to be truly convinced that their feelings matter. I mean,
Amen.
I wouldn't argue that feelings matter, in the sense that they override all things like truth, right? If it's a question of how I feel in reference to what's true and what's not true, well, then I would say facts don't care about your feelings. I would say that,
I
and I
would.
would. I assumed you wouldn't, but I would definitely say facts don't care about your feelings. Um, I wouldn't say that people that are talking when we're engaging in conversation, which is a different way of looking at this now. Um, a person has to be. I shouldn't even say has to be, because you can't evade on a person's um, right to speech as an American. So since we live in America, person has the right to free speech.
That's
Then
a whole nother episode that we have to
well, no,
do.
no, no. Wait. Check it out. Check it out. This is the full circle. The full circle is because a person thinks like that's a person's mindset in America, then they should be considerate of your feelings, but they don't have to be. If I mean, they don't have to be at all, but I would say they definitely don't have to pretend as if truth, something that's true, isn't true simply to protect one's feelings.
I just feel that the way that perception works in this climate, it's more lethal than knowledge.
What part do you mean about that? What part?
Positive PR, positive perception, positive interactions, positive feedback, right? Just positive things lead to positive things. And we live in a culture where it's almost unfair how much we reward versus, on the contrary, to the punishment, like the ebb and the flow. And I think that it's going to either lead us somewhere or expose failure elsewhere.
Hmm, that's interesting. Um, I had a question. I can't remember exactly what it was, but what I will say is I do understand, like I said, the consideration of feelings, and I think the main word in that sentence is consider, right? Like I mean, I consider it. It does matter to me, right? But it wouldn't it's not going to sway my opinion when it comes to something being true or false, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. I have a lot to talk about, and I think my computer is struggling to convey the emotion I have behind this. So let's talk a
But,
little
but
bit
but
more.
I mean, I wanted to ask you a question, and
Ask me.
maybe this may move the pendulum a little bit, left or right. But I'm hopeful. Let's just say that I am hopeful. Okay, so me and you earlier today we watched a talk with a couple of men of color that
It's
were
coming
also
up.
that were
That's later.
also. What do you mean?
We're gonna talk about that later. We're gonna get in. We're gonna get
You want
into
to
that.
get to that later? Okay, I'll submit to that because you might want to build up to it. But
That's what this is. I really want to have the direct conversation about kind of this lead up that we were having, just um, that general, and then hopefully land that plane. With that being said, I want to continue to refer on this point. This generation now, like every generation before, we all judge each other. Would
I
you?
mean, when has that ever not been a thing?
Yeah, exactly. I
But
see
why?
it.
But
I
you
see
said
it
you
in my
you you you
perspective.
said it as if it was new or special.
Subject. Yeah. No, 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 no. I'm saying that this is what the condition of life is. The people that are doing it next in time, in theory, will always have fewer adversities than those before them. Is the nature of humanity. And in America, I think we're at a unique crossroads because at that point, the divide, the gap was never narrowed. It was only exceeded, right? It was only expanded. And this is where someone like you would infer from data that equally everybody's doing just fine or there's success everywhere, no matter what, right? You look at the positive side. And I just remain practical in things. Um, I'll leave it that. I'll leave that thought there.
Well, on your first point, um, when I think about it, um, what comes to mind is a theory of that I can't think of a name, if there even is a name, but essentially, one generation literally plays off the the growth or the failure of the previous generation until it goes full circle or something of that nature. Um, but I think I would subscribe to that mind frame with consideration of at least in my lifetime, right? I've seen our country in particular uh, go through some changes, or go through some ups and some downs and some highs and some lows, right? Um, and I don't
Well,
think it was. I don't.
I have
I don't think it was. Uh, and like I said, that's just in my lifetime. So I imagine that maybe. if our, let's say our generation uh, started the problem and our children were became the problem, and then their children would have to be the generation that pulls us out of the nonsense, right? So, and then it would go full circle. That's probably how I would, if I had somebody ask me how it works, that's how I would probably describe it.
I get exactly what you're saying. Absolutely agree with that. Um, I do have a good question that I want to begin the conversation because we have quite a bit to talk about. Um,
Okay, well, I'm
let's
listening.
let's lean right in there and let's talk about USA to today. Let's talk about black jobs. I think that the clip that we looked at is another example of colorification of information. As far as these black jobs, I think that I do have a black job. I think you're familiar with black jobs, and mm, I think that this is maybe not so much insulting as much as it is assumptive.
Cultural. So what you're saying is do I believe there's such thing as jobs that are purely cultural, and those who pick that job, like that specific type of person normally picks that job. So it might be cultural, it could be dynamical. I mean, it could be the demographic.
Black
But
girls are the most educated group on earth, and they probably are being referred to
how's that
like
possible?
things
How's that possible?
at by rate, not by number.
Prove
Uh,
that, or
I
give me evidence of that. Rather, I don't need you to prove it. But give me evidence.
I don't have ovaries, and I'm not here to root for that.
No,
Uh,
no, no, no. You just made a truth claim. I
okay.
want to know where you got it from.
Oh man, you're right. I have no information to back that up.
I'm
No information to back it up
just saying. I
because
mean,
there's numbers and you see things and you can infer things, and I want to support black women, but just like this
you see what
episode,
you just did? Our
what's that?
first conversation was the difference between feelings and truth, and you just compromised truth for a feeling.
Well, I know it to be true, but I don't
How do you know
have.
that to be true?
I don't know how I confirm.
You have no idea. You just said something. You just using words right
It's
now.
there's numbers that have been correlated, and we've
This is
crossed over
not this is this is
the
not true,
time.
man. This is not true at all. You get on my nerves because you know
You
for a
know it to
fact
be
that's not
true,
true.
like Santa Claus and Jesus Christ. Now stop.
I wouldn't blaspheme the Lord like that. Now,
What
if
you
I
don't?
were you,
Man. Oh man.
I
Okay.
wouldn't. I wouldn't. But what I will say is, you just did what we just talked about, and that is compromising what you know is not true. What you know obviously is not a truth claim. Is
Are you trying to say
purely
black
is
women will
purely
send to hell?
subjective, and you said that only to appease a small group of people in the world. I
Black
mean, the what-
women.
the sheer numbers makes that
You're playing
impossible.
my position this week, aren't you? I'm not trying to tout the
You, I,
supremacy of anyone
what
over
you said per
anyone
capita? per capita.
else. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
We're done. We're done. Like I said, supporting all the women that truly make a life, a career from education, and an even bigger shout out to those that make education a career. I think that these are our unsung heroes, the people that allow us to discover our greatness, the people that allow us to illuminate our world with grander thoughts than our realities. Truly mean that. I think the influence of
That
educators
last part one more time.
is valuable. I don't. I'm
You said
saying that they
illuminate what?
illuminate thought.
How is that even possible in today's college?
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly my
How's
sentiment.
that is
How do you
not that's
teach
not
a
true in
kid
today
versus
in reference
Google?
to today's college. It's definitely not true
Dewey
in reference
Decimal
to
System
it's
versus
not true
Google.
in reference to public schools. You know that's not true. They do not illuminate anybody's mind.
But time
They
out, time out. I have a point to make. It's a difference between Dewey Decimal System and Google search. Now let's talk about this briefly. The imagination and then the cognition, the way that it forms the mind, is significantly different than something that's like Google. Google search mind does
that's not what we're talking about.
does,
That's not
but it
what you
does
meant
something
when you said
different
what you
to their
said.
minds, to their brains, and that's what I say about having the ability to and being entertained by doing these
I would say
things.
that amounts to the amount the type of conversation you have because the majority
Oh
of
man,
college lecture is literally lecture. It's literally listening to somebody talk and having dialogue about
agreed.
which thing. But and what you'll also find is depending on the person's ideology is what's going to be regurgitated in his or her classroom. So
Yeah,
I mean you can't say for sure that they're illuminating anything. You could say that they're molding. You could say that
sure,
you can
sure.
you can say that they're propagandizing. You can say that.
Indoctrinating,
It kind of all depends on what they're talking about.
and that's what I mean. It allows you to see through a lens of, and these people that often do not look like us are the ones that can really engage that and change that mentality for everyone.
I you
Being
know
that, seeing that, having that.
I went to college for 7 straight years, right? So I mean
You went to an
I did my
HBCU, you said?
no I did no absolutely not. I did
I
my
knew that would offend you.
um no that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I went to a 4 year college and then I went to a 3 year college for my master's. And what I'm simply saying is when it comes down to it, a person is basically in college going to learn what that instructor believes, not necessarily what they know to be fact. They may believe it's fact, but they don't. I would say the majority of what's taught is theory. That's why the most of the majority of the classes are theory. Right? Because most of it is just in theory. It's not based on fact. It's based on years and years of conversation swaying one way or the other. And we like to refer to these people as intellects, but maybe they're just the rich people that's able to have a conversation where it matters, right? I mean, it may matter in your life, but it just matters in your life. But these people, when their feelings affect change in the world, right?
Wow.
And that's where you get your you got your what are they called? The secret societies and all of that. What
Illuminati.
the frats and whatnot, and yeah, what yeah, things of that nature. I mean, these people are making the world spin the way they want it to spin. They're also making knowledge spin. And I shouldn't say knowledge, but let's say public knowledge uh, spin the way it wants to spin. So I think it's even though I do applaud most teachers, I would say the majority of teachers are, people that just want to teach the next generation. I worry about the universities at this point in our generation. I truly do. I worry.
I don't know how to ask this, but do you know what a black job is?
I don't know your definition of it. That's why I asked earlier, like what if it means what it sounds like it means. I was just using based on context.
Sure, sure. What do you think it means?
Like I said, I mean, if I'm guessing here, obviously, but I'm thinking of a position that typically a black person would be in. For instance, like if you look at the army, the average black person in the army is in a services role,
Yes.
like like uh like fueler or water treatment or personnel or um, um, culinary or kitchen. I can't think of it. Cook or what else? Mostly supply, mostly, right? Like I mean, something of that nature. Like they deal with they're in specific roles that I would say are not combat related, even though they'll all see combat one way or the other, but the job itself is not combat related.
Like the
So,
concert band, golf
huh?
company, like golf company, the concert band, or something like that.
I don't know about a concert, man, but what do you mean?
I forget what branch. I don't. I forget what division it is in the army, but isn't it golf company? That's like the army band or the.
I mean, well, a company consists of anywhere between maybe I don't know, like 35 to 100 or so soldiers. That's not a big amount of people. So, and that's something that's smaller than a battalion, which is a couple hundred, and then you got a brigade, which is a few thousand. So, I mean, that would be very specific. And I've never heard of. We have an army band, but every branch has a band.
Yeah.
But no, I would say as far as the band is concerned, it's pretty mixed. Probably more white than anything, but I would say it's pretty mixed. But that's how America looks.
I'm gonna play some of this clip.
Was that your definition, though? Is that what you were talking about, or?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been distorted. I guess I get nervous when certain stuff gets to certain places, and that's why I just can't believe it sometimes. You already know who this is. Um, it's probably a commercial.
Yeah. What was I gonna say though? Oh, it's about to start. Yeah. Well, there it is.
What hit that at all? Well, I gotta stay on this while it loads up. And there we go. With all that being said, I think the truth is going to
I'm
come.
gonna give you my favorite President Trump story. This is my number one favorite of all time. When we
This
were
is a dope
negotiating
story,
with
by
the
the way.
Taliban, what was still the president, President Trump wanted to get out of Afghanistan, but he wanted a conditions-based withdrawal, meaning that you do what we tell you to do, and then we will start pulling troops back slowly as long as you abide by our rules. It's President Trump and Mike Pompeo, and they are talking to Taliban leadership.
I'm going to fast forward to these guys getting
No,
off
no, no.
of.
Finish that story. Finish that story. You really got to.
I okay. It's, oh man. Everybody at home was just blackening the situation.
Taliban leader and said this: I want to leave Afghanistan, but it's going to be a conditions-based withdrawal. And translator translated. And he said, if you harm a hair on a single American, I'm going to.
I'm sorry, I don't know why it's doing that.
It's all right, bro. It's all right.
But
While it's queuing, uh, I remember you telling me that you wanted me to talk about books that I've been taking
wanted
gambles
you
with.
to, I wanted you to
Huh?
visit themodernblackman.com while we have this opportunity. I want you to visit themodernblackman.com while we have this opportunity. We actually have a one of a kind, world class website where you can consume content from the blog, the vlog, all products in one spot. And I highly encourage anybody, if you have that opportunity, to certainly man.com. If you haven't seen the website, I'm queuing up right now. This is it. Again, a world class website um, where you can consume all of our content. Latest podcast episodes. You can subscribe to the email list. Pictures load. You can see my co-host. Um, you can consume the podcast, the blog, and you have links to the YouTube vlog as well. Everything all in one spot. TheModernBlackman.com. All of our social media handles are listed and available. Uh, Contact us and create content. Um, Things are, you know, just real as far as I'm in a new place with new opportunities, doing new things, like we're talking about. The economy is roaring forward, and people are getting left behind. In real America, there are people that are coming out of felony, people coming out of bankruptcy, people coming out of divorce, people coming out of adversity or disability, and it's just like America. Oh my gosh, discharged service members by the thousands, tens of thousands, and more, and reasonable plans of accommodation don't exist. Compassion is gone, and I blame us.
What did you
I
mean
blame
about roaring forward?
the economy. This little action in the Dow, this little action in the S&P, the stock market, taking an inch forward is it should be one of many additions for a while. Just think about it. Let's talk about this briefly. I'm not an economist. I don't claim to be one. But how much money is spent? I don't want to say trillions, and it's billions, but gambling as well as stocks. But which appreciates stocks and never gambling. Uh, People that win and do well in gambling, they represent such an obscene minority. It's revealing on how gambling really works because young people now pay so much money for this entertainment, yet buying a house is less and less of a reality. Marriage and the stability of family just seems more and more like a dream to more and more people every day.
Does it seem obtainable to you?
Yeah, it seems attainable for sure. It just seems it's revealing on how different it is when you have, you know, a different route. Never complain.
I don't. Yeah, I don't want to subscribe or promote complaining at all. Um, But I would say our generation has gotten pretty, uh, dare I say, entitled. Um, we honestly believe that the government at this point, I would say the going rate of people our age and younger, honestly, are honestly like they might as well be socialists because they don't know, they don't really understand capitalism, and they honestly they
Oh, I don't think they don't understand capitalism, but that's so true. Okay, here's an analogy. If I can run with what you're saying, and you tell me if I missed it. I hate going to restaurants with servers of a certain age because they don't understand the hustle of waiting tables. I'm not mad at them. I'm not trying to demean them, live your life. I'm not even necessarily judging, but you'd make so much more money if you learn to
serve customers.
satisfy, just serve customers, to satisfy the customers, to just appease and agreeably work with the customers, but they don't do that. That's the thing. So, uh,
Imagine this in
mm,
reference to tips, as you're talking about. If we're talking about waiters and waitresses, and you're thinking about tips, when we were younger, there was never a conversation going on the internet about tipping waitresses and waitresses. There was never that conversation didn't exist. Why? Because we didn't have a problem tipping the customer service that we used to get when we were kids. We didn't that customer service was just fine. Um,
but they
I
didn't expect
remember.
$20 when they worked at Wendy's.
Well, my whole thing is simple. I don't believe that the job necessarily changes one or the other. I think that one is just stationary, right? So where you have one waitress that comes to the tables, and her main goal is to ensure that you guys always have what you need, so you don't necessarily feel like you need her. She's just so available and so on her feet about things that everything's always fine at the table, right? And then you have that person that's just literally taking your order, and as she takes your order, she's displaying um, a character of professionalism, decorum. She's answering questions. She's making recommendations. She's quick with finding things on the computer. And but of course you have the total opposite of that now. If you ask me, what you see now is kids that don't know how to say excuse me when they didn't hear you. They say what, right? And I for that is enough for me to get up and I mean to actually just leave. Like I'll be like, you know what, I don't necessarily want to eat here. Let me go, right?
You sensitive though. I know it's. I want to be there. I can't wait to get there one day. I know
Why?
that you wait for it. It's not necessarily about a negativity in tone. It's a principle thing.
I was raised with saying excuse me when
Yeah.
people were, when you didn't hear them, or I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, right? But when you say what, when people say what, why they usually say what? It's because either they heard you and they didn't like what you said, or they thought what you said was stupid.
No
That's
comment. That's how you feel. But yeah,
what.
it's a disrespectful. The younger generation is different, and I'm absorbing it too. I like that you took this as the snapshot and the focus of things. I want to talk about reparations, and then we're going to talk about Asians and whites.
Okay.
The clip. That's what I can't get to go. I'm gonna have to try to do the clip another time because it's giving me.
Well, we can. I can paraphrase while people, because I'm pretty sure they're going to go watch the clip on their own. if they haven't already. Uh, but what as far as the story that he was about to tell, it cut off when he was saying that Trump had told the leader of the Taliban that if one American is essentially touched or hurt or in any fashion, that he would kill him. And then right after that, he looks at the interpreter and he goes, tell him what I said, right? And then after he tells him that, then Trump pulls out a picture of a satellite image of the Taliban leader's house. And pretty much just, tells him, hey, let one of them get hurt and you know what's up, right? Like, there's your house right there and it's going down. Now, that's just to say that that's how much he cares about the vets that that people like try to say he don't care about. That's how much I saw that he cares about them. But that was a story anyway. As far as the conversation of reparations go, uh, the two politicians that were talking, I can't remember the name of the guy that had told the story, but
Henry
the other guy,
Woods and Byron.
yeah, and Byron Donalds. Uh, Byron Donalds is asked the question about whether or not he believes in
Byron Daniels and Wesley
Donalds.
Hunt.
It's Byron Donalds.
Okay.
Yeah. But at any rate, his take on it was it was a lot of nuance to it. He gave a lot of nuance to the conversation that you don't get to hear at all. Why? Because people, I mean, every nigga loves some free money, right? And why not argue for free money? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see anything wrong with that mindset, right? Because if you want some more money, you're gonna have to argue for it. If you want some free money, right? Uh, but uh, if you ask me, if somebody asked me if I believe that I deserve reparations, my immediate response to that would be for what, right? And the reason I would ask that is because I never was a slave.
But that's
My
not what
grandma.
that's not simply what reparations are.
Well, you have to understand what they're talking. The conversation is not what reparations are. The conversation is reparations for slavery. So that's two different that's two different straw men that we're going to have to pretend don't have
That's
one to
true.
do with the other. So what
It's
we're
very
talking about is reparations for slavery. So when somebody's asking me that question, I can assume why they're asking the question. But if they are direct and they say, "Do you believe that you accept reparations for slavery," which is essentially what you're referring to, then it
yeah.
would be a lot easier and quicker for me to say, "No, I don't believe I deserve to be paid for something I didn't do, or it's something that didn't happen to me." It didn't occur in my lifetime. It didn't occur in my mom's lifetime. It didn't occur in my grandma's lifetime. I'm not sure
I think that
why I should get a payout.
I want you to finish your point because I think there's so many nuances.
Yeah, it's definitely nuances. I don't like I said, I can definitely get behind the mindset of some free money, right? I remember a story. My mom was was having a conversation with my one of my cousins, right? And my cousin was saying how they didn't ever want to, ever be on Section 8 because they don't need the help of the government. They can figure out they can put themselves by their own bootstraps. And even though I totally could stand behind that mindset, and I'm sure my mom could too, her immediate knee jerk reaction to that response was, "What type of nigga don't want no free money?" Right? So the question that you would ask somebody, whether they deserve it or not, is if you don't believe you deserve it, would you accept it? Right? And I'm quick to say I'm not going to turn it down. I didn't think that that the government should have released any of those checks they had sent. Not any of them. The first one I would say was warranted, but the second one I don't think it was needed. The COVID checks. I don't think they were necessary. But did I spend that money? Absolutely. Right. I mean, I'm not going to just pretend like the money didn't end up in my bank account. It did.
You sound proud to have spent it.
But you understand what I'm saying, though? Like I feel I can feel both ways about this, even though I don't agree with the deserving part. I don't agree that I deserve it. I don't agree that it's owed to me, because you can't prove me. You can't show me evidence that it's owed to me. So not me. Like I mean, and the Byron Donald, so he was saying that his dad is Panamanian, I think,
Panamanian.
and his mom is from the islands, the islands as well. So not his mom, his grandma. His grandma's from the island, born and raised in the islands, and then she moved over, and his mom was born here. So uh, generationally speaking, and culturally speaking, he said that's why he doesn't believe he deserves it, because his family didn't go through American slavery. So he's saying that just because I'm black, does that do should I still get a check? Right? So he turned the argument like on its face, so you can actually see what a person is saying. A person is saying, because I'm black, I should get a check. They're not saying because of my ancestors being slaves, because that's not a reasonable response to why I should give you some money.
I have a lot of thoughts on that.
I'm listening.
I think that there should be qualification for people, and just like this is treading gentle water. Um, People want to identify the way that they want to identify. How offended, upset, controversial, detrimental, and catastrophic, possibly. Paying someone who is living their lives as one race, yet governmentally another.
I am quick to say this. If a person asks me, "What's my nationality?" Right, I would say I'm American. Right,
But
that's what
ethnic,
I'd say. That's what I say. If somebody asked me what my nationality was, I would say that I'm American.
but ethnically, you are.
Ethnically speaking, I'm Californian.
Oh wow, I can't stand this guy. Yes, that's fact. You look like your people.
What I'm saying is my roots, as far as I can tell, point to California and Texas. And I did the DNA thing.
I know.
I did the DNA thing. I mean, I'm just saying that if somebody asks me based on DNA, what are you? I would say that it looks like, from what I can see on the DNA thing, that I'm American, I'm Mexican, I'm European, and I'm African. That's what
Right.
it looks like on the map that they're showing.
If
Because
you're
they
from
show you.
Louisiana, they call you Creole, but you're from the Republic of California, so I think they call you an indigenous person or something.
Well, I say all of that to say this. If reparations are in reference to slavery, in reference to American slavery specifically, right?
Hmm.
Then, because I can see that I have DNA from Europe, because I can see that there's DNA that comes from that route. I don't know who's in there. I don't know who that was, right? I don't know nothing about that far back in time, because
But they spoke
um,
European.
well, because I was adopted. So like it's all just by blood. I don't know these people. I don't know whoever traced back over there, right? I don't know that. What I do know, and I don't know when, right? I don't know that either. So if I'm using what I see, and I see that the majority of the numbers are the makeup of me. If it's in a pie graph, the majority of it is in Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's a huge amount in America, and there's a small amount over in Europe, and there's a small amount in Africa. I can deduce, right, that that whatever the DNA trace that they picked up, the majority of them were picked up in North America. And if that's as far back as I can go, there's no need for me to try to make sense of why I'm owed money for just knowing where my DNA is at. I mean, where it came from, right? I mean, so the color means nothing, right? If I'm able to do that, the color of my skin can mean nothing in this conversation. What has to be a qualification that you might ask? A qualification for being paid for something that happened to you, I would say, I would say that it would have happened have had to happen in the same generation of the occurrence. Or of the end of it, like the end of that occurrence of slavery, that generation that came out of slavery,
Mm.
and that was born from that generation. So the kids of that that came out of slavery, that had kids when they came out of slavery, so their households, yeah, I can totally understand why that household deserves reparations. I can totally understand that. What I couldn't understand is all that our ancestors that's in America had went through, right, to get us to where we are today. When you talk about all the different rights that have started since Jim Crow to now, right? We're
Exactly.
talking we're talking 150 years from since Jim Crow. So no, I'm sorry,
150
80.
years since Jim Crow.
I mean since slavery. 150 years since slavery, and then you got 80 or 80 plus years since Jim Crow, right? So
80? No. Well, hold on.
maybe I mean I'm not about to sit here and do math, but let's say somewhere between 70 and 85, just to be.
You're very
Go
right. No, no, no. You're very right. I just was offended at how scary it is because I'm going to interrupt you now. I'm sorry.
ahead.
Think about how between Emancipation Proclamation and the Civil Rights legislation is very eerily close and similar between the events we just laid out.
We
The
we had a black president recently.
the George Floyd Reform Act is the biggest legislation
That's not
since
that's a lie. That's not true.
I'll save it for another platform,
That's
but
we could do
there
that, but I'm not going to give credence to something like
regressions
that.
in our
Just be, just
system.
because just be, just because it involves a person of color, don't make it good legislation.
With all of that being said, today is a new day, and tomorrow really seems like it could be productive and peaceful. And I really want that for the world. So the next 100 years, just think of what computing has done, because that was 40 years in the making. The 80s, we're probably still not there. We're probably about a decade away from these computers really taking over. And then the 100 years after that, what do you think it's going to look
Taking
like?
over what?
Everything, not just AI, but AI. You have obviously computing, financial, organizational, infrastructural, educational value. Computers have been growing since forever. If Bill Gates wouldn't have broken up that monopoly, he would be the world's first trillionaire. What's his name? Jeff Bezos was starting to get there. He was getting there faster than everybody else, right? Remember that divorce? Genius. And then there's Elon Musk. He's threatening to possibly find a way to make $1 trillion. He just blew up in that stock market we talk about. Yeah, it's the
I'm
world.
pretty sure that Bill Gates already has $1 trillion.
No, well, if he's earned it, yeah, if he's earned $1 trillion, that's cool. Um, he doesn't claim it, he's part of that pledge and he's actively trying to spend that money. So it's like, wow.
It may
Uh,
not be liquid, but he definitely is worth at least a
I
trillion.
mean, and which is my point is that that's going to be a new thing. There's going to be 10 to 20 of those people probably before we leave this place. Um, and I just think that that's really interesting. That's
Can I
something
ask a
that,
question?
yeah.
You don't think it a bit naive to think that eventually that we're going to create a computer that can take charge of human beings? You don't think that a
I
bit
knew you
naive?
were going to go that direction. Only you would go that direction. Yeah, absolutely. I think we probably have that now with the porn bot or something. Um,
Or with the fact that that is still a human made thing?
I don't like going down those.
It's not a rabbit trail. I'm simply just stating the fact that a computer is still built by a man's hand. So as long as
Yes,
it's still being built by a man's hand, and porn is still being done by actual
factual.
human beings.
Yeah,
I mean, of course, you got virtual stuff. I mean, but even that is man made. I am saying that there is no evidence to show that that computers will ever create their own minds or their own thoughts, because I don't think they have them. I think that they are, exactly what they are. They're computations that are put together in order to show you what I want you to see, or just straight video, right? Or
I think we're easy to watch and observe, but difficult to mimic and understand
understand what?
why we do the things we do as people, the
I
stuff
like,
we do to ourselves.
but you started the conversation by asking why do feelings why do
Yeah.
feelings give us a reason to do what we feel? And
Hmm.
I'm saying that there's no way you can have that conversation in reference to a computer.
See, I know that's what I'm saying. I think that a computer could be programmed to mimic the behavior it observes in people more easily than authentically doing it itself, right?
Yeah, but the idea of that movie, what's that one movie, I, Robot? That idea is you can't. I'm gonna say
It was
that
programmed.
it's just that was just a movie, man. That's what I'm saying. It's just a movie, man.
It was programmed. It was programmed. But before we close, I want to end with saying that I am proud to be an American. I am grateful and I'm thankful for this life. Uh,
What's with your background?
you like it? Let me finish.
I'm trying to understand it, because you said I'm proud to be an American.
I am. Listen, to what I'm saying. I'm proud to be an American. I am proud to be a part of this incredibly sadistic and capitalistic
Oh
country,
my God.
um, and pave my own path as I compete in this American experience, building wealth for my Black family is a tremendous honor. I'm grateful. I'm thankful. I'm here. And I thank you for making the time. I allow you to promote anything that you're working on. If you're working on a project right now, you got some social media, something you want to try to get people connected to.
Nah, man. I'm just living life and then, just enjoying my family. Uh, Not really. I really don't dabble with social media at all. But I will say, I will say that one thing that I do love about being American is, and I'm saying this because obviously, Fourth of July is tomorrow, so it's a very, I'm very, and because obviously I'm a veteran. I mean, so all of this, is relative in my lifespan. But I love my country. I love this country. I uh, I know it to be the most benevolent country in the history of the world. Um, and I do believe that once we get the proper leadership in the office, we will go back to being the strong nation that we know ourselves to be.
Amen. I want to thank you for your time. I definitely need you to get with me on this next topic, but until then, peace.